straight in, go all the way up to the witness stand. Just make sure to be careful of any wires. And remain standing and raise your right hand.
Good morning. Do you swear the testimony you're to give in this proceeding is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
If you would have a seat, and if you could state and spell both your first and last names.
My name is Christiane DeSilvio, spelled Kristieann is my first. Last, DeSilvio, Desilvio.
Attorney Hickman.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning.
Good morning.
Would you please introduce yourselves to the jurors and tell them where you work?
I'm Officer DeSilvio. I work for Concord PD, and I'm a part of the Patrol Division.
How long have you been a member of the Concord Police Department?
I was hired in July of 2020.
What did you do prior to joining Concord Police Department?
I graduated from the University of Norwich, University in Vermont.
And what year did you graduate?
2020.
And what is your current position or your current rank with Concord Police Department?
I'm a patrol officer assigned to the Patrol Division.
Can you describe for the members of the jury what some of your duties and responsibilities are as a patrol officer?
As a patrol officer, I respond to initial calls for service made by complaints in Concord, various crimes or various complaints, from civil to criminal matters.
Does that also include missing persons investigations?
It does.
Now, I want to direct your attention back to April of 2022. Did you specifically become involved in a missing person investigation that involved several agencies, so Concord Police Department, State Police, and maybe other agencies?
I did. I was dispatched to Alton Woods about 6:14 on April 20th with another officer.
Okay. I'm approaching with what's been pre-marked as States 225. Can you take a look at that and tell me if you recognize what that is?
I do. This is a calendar from the month of April in 2022.
And does it fairly and accurately depict the month of April of 2022, specifically the week of April 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st, 22nd, and so on?
It does.
Your Honor, asked to strike the identification and move it in as a full exhibit.
Any objection?
Just one question, Your
Yeah,
Honor.
of course.
wallets, cell phones. What other type of items did you see? Any items of value?
Yeah, so there was jewelry in the bedroom that was just on the one of the dressers. There was nothing really observed of anything missing.
Now, you mentioned wallets. Was any investigation done to determine whose wallets were inside the apartment?
Yeah, so one of the wallets was found in a purse believed to the purse belonging to Desh Wendy. We did find her ID in the wallet that was in that purse. And then there was a wallet on the dresser that had cards for Stephen.
At some point, did you take photographs of the interior of the apartment?
I did.
And what was the purpose of taking those photographs?
To show what belongings were there, show the manner in which the apartment was left.
I'm showing up on the screen, states 2. Can you describe what vantage point this is taken from?
This is from the front door of their apartment, so where you enter, and that is towards the left, which was the kitchen.
So you're walking in, to the left is the kitchen. And what's straight ahead that you can't see off view?
That would be towards the bathroom and the bedroom area.
The next one is actually states 8. What does this depict?
That's the front door of the apartment right there. This was just a ledge that's just to the side of the kitchen, and that was a pair of glasses that Sue Forey said belonged to Stephen.
States 3. What is depicted in this photo?
This was their dining room or kitchen table. There's also another pair of glasses there, and that laptop was open when we entered the apartment.
Okay. So when you walk into the apartment, this is to the left.
Correct.
States 4. What is this?
This was a whiteboard that was hanging on one of the walls that was towards where the bedroom was located.
Why was a photograph of this board taken?
Because it shows some dates around the time of which they had stuff coming up or that week of April.
Do you recall where this was inside the apartment building? Or in the, not the building, but inside the actual apartment?
Yeah, it was when you walk straight ahead from the, I believe it was the entrance, it was off put on one of the side walls.
This is states 9. Which room of their apartment is this?
The living room TV area.
And can you describe what you saw in this room?
Yep, so we noticed on the end table next to the couch to the left, that's where there were cell phones that were located. And then this is where we observed at the time the door was slightly ajar, and there was some fruit. You can see towards the door there, there's some fruit on the ground in bags.
Jerry Hickman, would you prefer that the lights be turned down?
I guess if any of the jurors are having issues seeing, I don't know, Judge, if you're willing to inquire if anyone's having difficulty.
Okay, I think we're good.
Okay, thank you, Judge. So when describing, you said that there was some kind of fruit. Is that closer to the sliding door that
Correct.
they see in this image? Okay. And then you started to mention that there were some items on an end table. Is that what's depicted here in States 5?
Correct.
And what do they see?
2 cell phones, and then there was another laptop.
Were efforts made to identify the 2 cell phones that were here on the end table?
I believe both of those, that I can recall, I believe both of the phones did not have a charged battery at the time.
And States 6, what's depicted in this photograph?
They appeared to be keys. I believe we determined that the ones with the Honda logo belonged to one of the vehicles outside.
And do you recall where the keys were located inside the apartment?
Yeah, this was just off-put of the end table that just had the cell phones. This was right to the left of that.
And states 10, what room of the apartment are they looking at in states 10?
This is believed to be their bedroom.
States 11, is this still the same bedroom that they just saw a different view of?
Correct. This faces the closet in the entranceway where the other photo was taken from.
What particular personal belongings were noted in the bedroom?
So the purse that's sitting on the bed there, that's where the wallet that's hanging out the top, which is where Desh Wendy's ID was found. And then on the top dresser right there, you can see it just to the left, that's where Stephen's wallet was found.
State 7, is that a close-up of what you were just describing?
Correct.
Stephen's wallet on the dresser.
Correct.
During your, what I think you described as like a welfare check of the apartment, did you have an opportunity to speak with Sue Forey?
I did.
And what was the purpose of speaking with her?
We were just trying to determine background, a little bit of the couple and see if there was anything going on in their lives.
Did she express any information about them being more active lately?
Yep, she did. She said Stephen liked the outdoors. He was active. She said
If council would approach. Members of the jury, I'm going to permit Officer DeSilvia to talk about what Ms. Forey may have told her, but it's coming in for a limited purpose, not for the truth of the matter of the statements that were made, but only to help explain the context and the reasons for some of the actions taken by the police.
Okay, so officer, can you describe the general information that you had received from Ms. Forey about Stephen and Wendy being more active lately?
yes. So Sue had explained that Stephen was active. He liked to be outdoors. She said just Wendy usually had stayed inside, but had recently started venturing out with Stephen to go walk the trails.
And so based on that information about activities that Stephen and Wendy had recently been engaging in, what steps did investigators take to try and locate Stephen and Wendy?
At that point, state police came in and they started a canine track.
And after you spoke with Ms. Forey, what additional steps did you take, say, around the apartment?
With the other officer, Concord PD officer that was with me, we conducted a canvass of some neighbors. I think it was the floors below and some across the hall from them to see if they had seen the Reeds recently.
And just generally, had anyone reported seeing them?
Not for a few days.
After you canvassed the apartment building, after you took photographs, what did you do after that?
After I took photographs of the apartment, state police had started a canine track behind Alton Woods, and they had then called to us or over to one of their other troopers that was with us to respond that they had located a homeless encampment off a trail behind Alton Woods.
And when you say that state police had conducted a track, what do you mean by that?
They're canine dogs with the handlers. They had, I believe there was 2 of them that had dogs, and then there was a 3rd trooper. They were trying to, I can't speak on how they handle it, but they went out with their dogs into the trails.
Is it fair to say that they went searching?
Correct.
Okay. And who were you with at the time that state police is starting to conduct searches?
I was with Officer Lemoyne at the time and Sergeant White of Concord PD.
And what actions or steps did you take?
So we had met up with one of the troopers right outside a sand pit that was just before the trails behind Alton Woods. At that point, the trooper had provided me the name that the individual had given them. They located an individual in the tent. He provided me a name, and we started to walk back with him to make contact with this individual.
I'm showing you states 28 and 29 that are currently marked for identification. If you want to take a look at those. and let me know if you recognize them.
Sorry, what were the numbers on?
28 and 29.
29.
I do.
And do they fairly and accurately depict the areas that we were just talking about?
They do.
Your Honor, I'd ask to strike the identification on both.
Any objection? 28 and 29 are both full exhibits.
Thank you, Judge. So up on the screen is states 28, is that correct, that I just showed you?
Yes.
Can you orient the jurors, and if you need to stand up, please do, on what we're looking at in this map?
Yep, so right here where this pool is located in the middle here, that's where Alton Woods is located. When I just referenced the sand pit where we had met the trooper, it's right up towards the top middle.
And when you say the sand pit, are you talking about the circle that almost looks like a tan color at the top of the map?
I am.
Okay. And then in states, this next one, what's marked in blue?
That is the building 14.
Okay. And then in states 29, what is this?
This is a zoomed in view of what you just showed us, where that path that leads to that tan area, which was what I called the sand pit.
The sand pit area?
Yeah.
Okay. And can you point out where generally was the tent that you were talking about
Yep.
just moments ago?
When we walked in, we went up and towards the right, so it would be in this general area.
Okay, so to the, almost to the middle right?
Yes, correct.
The photo.
Yep.
And about, so approximately, how far away was this area from, say, the wood line?
A very brief walk, 2 to 3 minute walk.
Okay, so close?
Yes.
And approximately how far away is this, what you've described as the kind of like the sand pit area, from Alton Woods, from the apartment complex?
It's just behind the complex, probably about a few minute walk from building 14 where they lived.
So in this next slide is the area that I have highlighted in red, kind of that general area that you were talking about, that you
It is.
saw at the tent?
It is.
Okay. Now, when you and other officers go to that general area that I just showed, states 29, what happens when you get to the tent?
The troopers that were out there were off with one male that was inside of a tent.
And what information had the male provided?
He provided a name, which was the name that was given to me by the trooper originally. We attempted to confirm it with the male. He provided a name of Arthur Kelly with a date of birth of 1/27 of 92.
And with that information, what did you do?
I provided it to dispatch. Originally, when we give them a name, they run it out of our state. They told me nothing had come back. We had engaged with the male who identified himself as Arthur. We engaged with him a little bit more to try and see if he was out of a different state. And he had told us that he had just come up from Boston, Mass. So I then asked dispatch to run him out of Massachusetts. And they also told me nothing came back.
When engaging with this male, what other statements did he make?
He said he had just come up there from Boston, Mass. He said that he didn't think he was doing anything wrong and that he was just trying to stay there. And he said he'd, again, just been there for the day.
Was he provided information about the fact that investigators were conducting a missing person investigation?
I believe we had asked him if he had seen anybody while he'd been out there. He had said no, and he just didn't wish to provide any further information.
When you were in that area, what did you observe about the tent? Was it a single tent?
It was a single tent. It was a generally clean area, aside from right in front of his tent, there was a large amount of what appeared to be like empty Mountain Dew cans.
Empty Mountain Dew cans?
Yes, correct.
I'm approaching you with states 12 and 13 that are currently for identification. Can you take a look at those and tell me if you recognize those areas?
I do.
And do they fairly and accurately depict the area that we've been discussing between Alton Woods and the tent that you found?
They do.
Then I'd ask to strike the identification on 12 and 13.
Any objection?
No objection.
12 and 13 are full exhibits.
Thank you, Judge. So up on the screen is states 12. Is that what I just showed you?
It is.
And can you describe for the jurors what vantage point that they're looking at right now?
So this vantage point is from one of the access ways of Alton Wood, just behind where we entered, where we keep talking about that sandpit area. That's that path, just from a different point of view.
And then states 13.
This is the same point, vantage point as the one that was just shown. It just faces a little bit towards the right, which is towards the woods area where that tent was located.
And would you describe it as a close distance from Alton Woods?
Yes.
Your Honor, if I just may have one moment.
Of course.
Officer DeSilvio, do you recall approximately what time of night it was when you spoke? Excuse me. Give me 1 second. When you spoke with the man who had identified himself as Arthur Kelly?
I can't give an exact time, but it was a few hours later, and I recall that it was dark out.
Okay, so a few hours later after you had responded to Alton
Correct.
Woods,
Correct.
which was, I think you said around 6.
6:14, so it would have been a few hours later from that, probably between 9 and 10.
Okay. I have no further questions for you at this time. Defense counsel may have some.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Attorney Smith.
Sorry.
That's okay.
That's one I get to, sorry. I just want to make sure it's clear for the jury. I think it probably is, but have you seen this map before?
Briefly, not maybe with all of the outlines on it, but I've seen the map.
Okay, and can you look at this area? Does that look like the Alton Woods complex?
It is.
And that dirt road, you just had a bunch of pictures with the dirt road and what you called the sand pit area?
Yes.
And that is an area that's sort of almost in the middle of the cleared area beside Alton Wood, between Alton Woods complex and the woods, right?
Correct.
Close to the center.
Yep.
Okay. So, a little bit of contact with with the person that identified himself as Arthur Kelly.
Yep.
From what I understand, somebody who was searching with the canines, one of the troopers contacted somebody who asked you to go out with Detective Lemoyne
Correct.
to speak to that person.
Correct.
And it was, you knew walking up that somebody is camped in the woods around Alton Woods.
We did know that.
And you are searching the woods around Alton Woods for missing people.
Correct.
And you have taken this very seriously.
Yes.
You've already started you finished photographing the apartment, the condo, whichever.
Yes.
Right? So this is a pretty serious matter, and there's somebody who's exactly in the place that you're searching for. Right?
Correct.
That they see as they're taking their dogs through the woods.
Correct.
So you are the one who, with Detective Lemoyne, go out to talk to this young man. You have to say.
You
Correct,
say yes,
sorry.
That's okay.
And you know his name at that point?
What he provides us.
Okay, so the trooper had not given you a name.
He did.
Okay. And you knew that you were going to somebody who identified himself as Arthur Kelly.
Correct.
Did you talk to dispatch about that name before you got there?
I believe the New Hampshire name that was called in as we were walking over.
The New Hampshire name?
So his name was, we ran it through New Hampshire as we were walking over.
Okay. And then while you're in front of him, or while you're there, and he mentions Boston, or coming up from Mass or Boston?
Boston, Mass.
Okay. You decide, okay, I'll have dispatch run the name through Massachusetts dispatch.
That's correct.
And essentially, by running this name, you're looking for warrants.
We're looking to see if he has any type of identification in either state.
Okay. And if somebody has an identification, a warrant comes up, right? If there's an outstanding warrant.
That's correct.
So when you ran through New Hampshire, no outstanding warrant came up for Arthur Kelly.
For Arthur Kelly, yes, correct.
And when you ran through Massachusetts, same thing.
Correct. No identification came back.
Okay, and he was aware that you were checking, and you actually confronted, Detective Lemoyne confronted him in front of you about nothing coming up, right?
Correct.
And then the person who called himself Arthur Kelly said, I don't want to answer any more questions.
That's
right?
correct.
And you went on to whatever your next investigation was going to be.
Correct. We left that area.
Okay. The Mountain Dew bottles, cans, wasn't it?
Cans, correct.
And where were they?
They were just outside the entrance to his tent.
And were they laying around? Were they neatly placed? What were they?
They were in a pile.
Okay. About how many?
15 to 20.
Okay. And he had said to you that he had just come up that morning from Boston, Mass, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Looked like he had probably been there longer, right?
Possibly.
Okay. And when you were at the house, you spoke to Sue Forey, the resident, sorry, you spoke to Sue Forey, and you were taking it very serious.
I was.
In part because 2 days had passed since anybody had seen the wreaths.
Mm-hmm.
And in
You have
part,
to, I need a yes or no, that's okay.
Yes.
That's
and
okay.
in part because it was Sue Forey.
Yes.
And so you took photographs of the residence.
Yes.
Why?
To document the manner in which the apartment was left
Why?
because they were reported as missing people.
Okay. So what is the purpose of recording the condition of the apartment as you found it?
To determine how they would have left or why they left.
Okay. To see what was there so that somebody else could see if something was missing if they looked at those photographs later?
That's correct.
Okay. To see and show the condition of furniture and stuff like that so that anybody else investigating can look and see if there's signs of something being off?
That's correct.
And you can't say for sure that that is the condition of the residence when the Reeds left, but you can document exactly what is there by the time you arrive, right?
Yes.
Because you don't move anything around while you're there.
Not unless it's to locate identification, and as we open the wallets to locate identification for them.
And you take the picture before you open the wallet, right?
I believe the pictures were taken before.
Okay. Because you want to capture exactly the condition prior to making any changes, right?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any further direct examination?
I'd ask that you be excused.
Okay. Any objection to excusing Officer DeSilvio?
No objection.
Okay. You're free to go, officer.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Who's the next witness?
Your Honor, the state calls Trooper Barry.
Okay, yeah, we can start with, yeah. Yeah. We won't go much past 12:30, I promise. And if anybody wants to stand and stretch, I missed that opportunity there. I'll try to be quicker the next time, but if you want to stand and stretch while we're waiting for Trooper Barry, that'd be fine.
You want to come straight up to the witness stand and just remain standing and raise your right hand when you get up there.
Good afternoon, sir. Do you swear the testimony you're to give in this proceeding is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
If you'd have a seat and state your full name and spell your last name for the record.
My name is Brett Barry, B-A-R-R-Y.
Attorney Higgins.
Thank you, Your Honor. Would you please introduce yourself to the jurors by describing for them where you work?
So I'm a state trooper out of Troop C in Keene. I've been there since 2017. I was hired in 2017, graduated the 174th Academy class, and that's where I'm currently stationed today.
And what is your current role with New Hampshire State Police?
So I am a part of the K-9 unit.
What is a K-9 unit?
So I'm in charge right now. I'm running a team, me and my K-9 partner, K-9 Oakley. She is a search and rescue and cadaver dog.
And about how long have you been a part of the K-9 unit with New Hampshire State Police?
So I was selected in 2018, and then in 2019, I received my dog, K-9 Oakley. She was 10 weeks old.
And you mentioned your dog's name is Oakley.
Correct.
What kind of dog is she?
So Oakley is a plot hound, P-L-O-T-T.
Can you describe kind of generally for the jury what some of your duties are as a canine trooper?
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
and for Oakley?
Yeah, so we're tasked with search and rescue. So obviously looking for missing children, missing elderly adults, or endangered adults, something that was in question. We do tracking, and then we also do the cadaver side, which is a detection.
So can you help the jurors understand what you mean by that? I know you know what you mean by that, but what does tracking mean? And then can you explain what cadaver means?
Yeah,
In terms
absolutely.
of the detection?
So tracking would be locating human odor and following that until hopefully you find whoever you're looking for alive. The cadaver side would obviously be locating target odor, which would be decomposition of human remains.
And this may be obvious, but what is the difference between, say, human odor and cadaver odor?
Yeah, so human odor, based on scent theory, is an active plume of odor. As we sit here, we're actually giving off skin rafts. This is live human odor. When you die, that ceases and decomposition starts.
Can you describe some of the training and experience that you and Canine Oakley have had to be able to do these types of searches?
Yeah, absolutely. So in 2020, we went to a 15-week patrol school. It's a kind of a train the trainer program. So a trainer trains me, I train the dog. We go through 15 weeks, you go back to the road, and then you do a 9-week detection class in the fall.
And so with both the 15-week program and then the 9-week program, are there any types of certifications that happen?
Yes, so we certify yearly through NESPAC standards. That's the New England State Police Administrators Conference. All of the canine units get together. We have set standards for every state in New England, and we fall under those standards every year.
Okay, so every year you have to be recertified.
Correct.
And in addition to what you start with as the 15-week program and then the 9-week program, after that, do you and Canine Oakley continue to do training?
Correct. We do approximately three days at minimum a month. 2 days of which are search and rescue, 1 day of cadaver.
Now, does Canine Oakley live with you?
She does.
Okay. So is it fair to say that there's ongoing training even beyond the scheduled training days?
Yeah, absolutely. Every time I take her out of the kennel, which is multiple times a day, that is training. We're doing obedience, we're doing general area searches. That's her play is work.
And can you just describe, what does it mean to be certified in both search and rescue and then cadaver detection?
So you have passed the 15-week patrol school, which is the tracking, generally the human odor part of it. You receive a certificate. Actually, an out-of-state instructor comes and says, yep, okay, that dog falls under our standards. And you recertify every year based on that, and then you do the same thing as well after the 9-week with detection.
Now, Canine Oakley obviously doesn't speak. How does she communicate with you?
So that's something that we built since she was 10 weeks old. I understand her mannerisms, everything like that. Obviously, through patrol school, you see when the dog's in odor, when the dog's not in odor, and you learn how to work that. Detection is very similar. So you can see the change in behavior before an alert. You can see the recognition of human remains, and you start to see a repetition of what she looks like prior to an alert, when she's in odor, and when she's actually alerting.
What do you mean by in odor?
The target odor here would be human remains.
And so, can you break that down for the jurors? So she could be in odor, she could be about to alert, and she could be alerting.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And what is it that she does to communicate whether she's in one of those categories?
So I see, generally the way we start a search is she's off lead. I'll send her. Most of the time you don't start an odor. She just runs around, generally ranging up to 200 yards away from me. I have a GPS collar on her. Try to keep her in line of sight. When she gets into odor, you'll see a change in behavior. She'll head snap odor. You'll see her body change. She'll start to bracket. Shoulders will kind of go back. Sometimes she'll get on her hind legs, depending on the way that the thermals and weather is, and she'll actually start working what could be blowing over her head. She will then follow, because we train our dogs on source, and attempt to get to that source odor, where it is actually the strongest. At that point, she'll investigate briefly, and you can see her kind of tense, get real down, and she's about to give off an alert, and then she'll sit or lay down and give a bark alert. And that is her alert. It's a sit or a down and bark.
I want to direct your attention back to April of 2022. At that time, were you and K-9 Oakley employed by state police as part of the K-9 unit?
Yes.
And specifically on April 21st of 2022, did you and K-9 Oakley become involved in a missing person investigation involving Stephen and Wendy Reed that involved multiple other agencies beyond just state police?
Yes, we did.
And what was the general nature of that missing person investigation?
It was for a missing couple who hadn't been heard from since Sunday. Which I'm there on a Thursday morning. And there has been no contact with the family. It's starting to worry people. Things escalated the day before with a search. I was notified that morning, and I arrived at around 9:30 in the morning.
And what type of assistance would you and K-9 Oakley be able to provide in an investigation of this nature?
Yeah, so generally we would do an area search, which is the way that we run Cadaver. We do off lead, like I said earlier, with the GPS collar, and we cover as much land as we possibly can. Generally, we try to keep it within a 0.5 radius, especially at that time. We didn't have a lot of stuff to go on, so we were going from last seen to 0.5 out.
And when you say 0.5 out, you mean?
0.5 miles, correct.
So like a half a mile?
Half a mile.
Okay. Is there a specific reason why a half a mile is used?
So generally, through our experience, most missing people are found within a half mile of last seen. But that's also suicidal subjects, elderly, missing. But that is our primary search area, unless we have investigators telling us otherwise.
And what specifically in this case was requested of you and K-9 Oakley?
So at this point, it was to do a map study, get our search areas, and divvy them up amongst the canine handlers and clear area.
When you clear an area, what are you doing?
So we are mapping it with our GPS system. So I'm walking through the woods. There's a line we use Garmin. There's a line following where I'm going, and then there's actually a line following where Oakley's searching. So we describe it as painting the map. We have our general search area, and we try to cover as much of it as possible until we are confident that we can say there's nothing there.
And I think you had mentioned, or you had testified that you had responded early that morning on the 21st.
Correct.
And generally, what area did you and K-9 Oakley respond to?
So we ended up going to, off of Portsmouth Road, there's an access road on the north side of 393. We began searching down that road and also the north side of 393 out to, it was like a large water tank. We searched that area along the bank of 393 and up behind, and we eventually went into the woods around the water tank and cleared up to about, say, the west side of a utility. It was a utility building.
Did you search any other areas?
Yeah. So following that search, we then went to Allard Road, Allard, Branch Turnpike, and Loudon Road. There's a sliver of woods. We cleared that area. It was, describe it as a parking lot, sliver of woods, and then people's backyards.
And after you cleared the area that you said was Allard Street, Branch Turnpike, and I think you said Loudon Road.
Correct.
What other areas did you search?
We then went to Keach Park. It fell within that .5 radius. It's an open area. It was active. There were people at the park. We searched the perimeter. There's small wooded areas, but we basically focus on the perimeter.
And did you clear then Leach Park?
Correct.
Okay, and after you do that, then what area do you search?
So then we went back to the apartment complex and searched the proximity of the entire apartment complex. And that was probably, there wasn't a lot of woods, especially around the entrance and the exit. But we focused on that 10-foot, that radius around that, the wood line.
Okay, so the woodline area around Alton Woods.
Correct.
And did you search the entire complex?
I searched the perimeter of the complex.
Okay, so the entirety of the perimeter
Correct.
of Alton Woods. And did you clear that area as well?
I did.
Your Honor, I think at this point, it might be a good stopping point, if that's fine with
I-
Your Honor.
Absolutely, that makes total sense. So members of the jury, I told counsel to try to look for a logical break point. We'll break for lunch now. We'll resume at 1:30. So we'll take an hour for lunch right now. You can certainly leave your notebooks there in the envelopes where you were seated. That's absolutely fine. And I'll just remind you, you can't talk about the case or among yourselves or with anyone else. I'll give a longer instruction that regards the end of the trial day, but just a reminder about that. And just, certainly no problem if your travels take you up Loudon Road, but don't go back to any of the places we visited on the View yesterday for the purpose of doing your own independent research in this case. Thank you. We'll see you back at 1:30.
All rise, the honorable jury.
You can step down. Thank you.
Court is at recess. Do you guys want the CD numbers for this?
Oh, I gotta get these. Yes, I knew you